Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the Cats Coverage Basketball Podcast. I've got my co-host Michael Epps, co-host Tim, I guess producer Tim. He runs the show and then pops in for a co-host sometimes as well. And we've got special guest Wess Moore, the guy putting his name across the country, sticking his neck out, making the reports, and he turned out to be correct on this. One that it seemed kind of far-fetched. Kind of seemed like what that's what's going on tonight. But Sunday was a big night, and we would leave it up to John Calipari to on the cusp of the eve of the national championship game to still take over the national spotlight in a tournament that he didn't win a single game in at all. Wes, how you doing, sir? Welcome to the show.
Man, I'm glad you invited me. It's great 24 hours for sure in Arkansas.
Definitely. Michael, how you doing tonight, man?
Yeah, man, just been throwing together all of our end of season player melts, getting ready for the portal news and the draft news. So I finished those up pretty much last week, and then did all the assistant coach melts, the file VOs, assuming that there would probably be maybe a couple changes on the staff. Once it came out Cal was going to stay. And now it looks like there's going to be a lot of changes. So, see.
Tim, how you doing, brother?
Doing good. I've been stuck to my phone, glued to it all day long, it feels like, but I'm right there with Michael. There's going to be a lot of changes, and I'm frankly quite excited to see the amount of changes that go on.
Yeah. So let's hop right into it. So right now is Monday night. The national championship plays in like 2 hours, not even 2 hours, less than that. But all that's going on, at least around these streets, and all that's going on in my brain. I'm on 3.5 hours of sleep. Just the news started. Let's backtrack. Let's go through it. And it's probably about. I had first heard something about like maybe 8 o'clock last night, and I was just like, I immediately was like, what? Like I actually told somebody I have a message that I look like an idiot. I said that's 0% gonna have chance gonna happen. Like not a chance. Approaching maybe 9 o'clock. Actually I think it's about 9:12. West puts out a tweet that just goes mega viral. He says, multiple sources are telling me Arkansas has zeroed in on John Calipari. Bearing any last minute issues, I expect him to be the Razorbacks' new head coach. And I kid you not an hour later, it started to look like done. Like it started to look legitimate. Like this has a lot of smoke to it. It has a lot of flame to it. And Wes, I kind of want to give you the chance to kind of go about what your evening was like. I mean, like we just talked on right before you got on here and we hit record. That's a big thing to go with. Cal to Arkansas, it just seems unlikely in the grand scheme of things. And you put your neck out, you put your brand out there on the line, and you were confident who was telling you that was correct. What was that moment like, and that maybe nervousness as you first put it out?
I tell you what, I wrote the tweet. I sent it to my boss, my news director here at the station, who I'd been talking with throughout the day. And I said, here's what I'm going with. Are you good? He looked at it. And he said, man, I love it. You're confident. You have your sources. You believe it. You know it's true. Send it. I hit send, and it's one of those moments, you never forget. And I'm like, okay, here we go. And this was, I think it was a little early. Maybe it was about 8:15, 8:45, 8:30 our time. I can't remember. But I have a newscast that goes on at 9 o'clock, and I'm the lead story of the newscast. So I'm in here writing a VO for, what all my sources have said, what I have learned. I'm trying to cut some video. I mean, it's crazy. And I'm just seeing my Twitter notifications just blow up. And then my phone starts blowing up, guys. Text messages from friends, from coworkers in the business. And they're like, Wes, are you sure about this? So, Wes, I hope your sources are right. Wes, I hope you know what you're talking about, because I'm not hearing this at all. And it does. It creates that little doubt in your mind. And I remember sitting here in my chair, and I sat back and I'm thinking about the process, how long the day was, and my three sources. I'm like, no, this is right. These guys are right. One of them knows the situation, and he told me to go with it. I know I'm right. And so I relaxed. I went out and did my 9 o'clock hit. And then so it'd be about 10 o'clock y'all's time. And I remember I was standing at the desk and I looked down on my phone and I saw a tweet from some Kentucky guy who said that Calipari had notified Kentucky of the discussion with Arkansas. And I was like, that's it. That's the validation that I needed. I know this is going on. And I would say later that hour, that's when some of the national guys started picking up, and it really just blew up. And it was crazy to come back and go through some of mine. And I couldn't. I'm sure I've missed so many notifications, so many mentions, but it went from I'm an absolute moron. Wes, has your Twitter account been hacked? This guy in Little Rock. Yeah, I know there's a lot of Kentucky fans who don't know me, and they just dismissed it. And look, I understand. I dismissed it the first time I heard it Sunday afternoon. So I get it, the shock value. But it went from no one believing me into a span to where, oh my God, he was all over it. This guy broke it. He knew exactly what was going on. So it was crazy, the roller coaster that happened just on my Twitter feed, watching some of the reaction that went down right when I posted it and made the first post.
Yeah, I saw our guy Jeff Goodman give you some flowers. So this, I don't know if you know, but this podcast is on the Field of 60 Network. So our guy Jeff Goodman, he's like, we need to give Wes his credit. And I'm like, yeah, that you took a risk there, and you were right. But props to you, Michael and Tim. I do in just a second want to get your all's thoughts on Cal going to Arkansas. But while I give you time to kind of get your thoughts ready, Wes, what are your thoughts? I mean, we can tell you our thoughts, but like John Calipari, the whole show of Cal coming to Fayetteville, Arkansas. What's your thoughts, and what's the talk like around the town, and how does everybody feel with your gauge?
Yeah, let me explain the Razorback program. They won a championship in '94, played for the title in '95, went to the Sweet 16 the next year in '96. They then went 25 years without making it to the Sweet 16. That's a long time. Eric Musselman came in and changed that. He goes Elite Eight, Sweet 16. This year, a disappointment, but everybody was still feeling good. The program was in great hands. And then he leaves, excuse me. And the fear was it was the Nolan Richardson type thing all over again. The next hire was going to be a disaster. Arkansas would go back to being irrelevant. And then when, the news came out that Chris Beard had decided to stay at Ole Miss, people started to panic. And then you see names floated around like Chris Jans and Darrell Walker and Will Wade. It was bad Friday, guys. And so when the news hit about Calipari, this place was ecstatic because they know this program's not going to be irrelevant. Coach Cal is going to make sure that Arkansas, as we've all seen over the last 24 hours, people are going to talk about Arkansas. They're going to talk about Coach Calipari. So they realize this program's not going to take a nosedive. He's still a good coach. And I think the feeling is he needed a breath of fresh air. He needed a clean slate. He's getting that at Arkansas. And this is a chance for him to, maybe stick it to some of the people at Kentucky, or to just, show the people at Kentucky or that I still got it. And I think Arkansas is going to get a motivated Calipari. Sometimes a fresh start's good for everybody.
Well, I think it's fair to say, and this isn't a jab at all, but there's different standards, in my opinion, at Arkansas and Kentucky. We only hang Final Four and national championship banners. He can go to Arkansas and lose in the first round for a couple of years, and I think the fan base would probably hang on to it. Let's get to the tournament every year and hope he has a run. When Kentucky fans, we just don't accept that, and it's become pretty miserable here. And I think it is, like you said, a breath of fresh air. He's going to go there and have a fan base that wants him. He's going to have a new start, a couple of years to kind of do what he wants, and it's going to be probably hot from the jump. He's going to take probably some of his recruits with him. But I think Kentucky fans are just ready to move on. And I kind of want to segue to Michael, and then we'll hit you, Tim. Michael, if Cal headed down to Fayetteville, what's your kind of takeaway on that? Are you ready? I was kind of ready. I don't want to put words in your mouth. How do you feel about the news?
To go from Will Wade to John Calipari, Wes, that's hilarious. I just laugh. That's a funny swing. I mean, it was stunning. Hearing the news, I was at the gym because I also, just got off weekends recently, getting bumped up to sports director here at Fox 56. And so like I was at the gym, I was seeing this, texting people. I'm like, hey, what's going on? There's no way. And it became real pretty quick once I think Norlander was the first national guy to pick it up, CBS Sports, and then Pete Thamel picked it up at like 11 something, maybe earlier than that. And it was like, all right, man, this is for real. I think it's the mentality of that it's great for both, I think is a valid mentality. I think Kentucky fans to be so a lot of them were really happy with this news and they're ready to move on from it, which I don't see. I hold back on that a little bit. Wes, I'm for background, I'm not a UK fan. I'm from Michigan, so I came here for the job, and I keep things pretty unbiased here on our pod. And I think he's a guy that you just kind of want to have as your head coach. He's the best recruiter on the planet, and yeah, he's been a bad in-game coach recently, in big time moments and hasn't delivered in the tournament. But he's still a guy you want. So, some fans are sad, a lot are happy, and that's a very interesting place for the fan base to be at because this hire has to be big time. And either way, the roster is going to be a disaster, at least for the next few weeks. So to just be like completely fine with Cal leaving and everything that follows is, a scary, scary path for the fans to tread on. But that's how they're feeling. And, they're allowed to feel like that, but it's surprising to say the least.
Tim, what about you, man?
Uh, I definitely agree with you all the most. Kind of a point that I saw is it's the best for both, or for Kentucky at least, because we don't have to pay that buyout of $30 million. That's something they have around. They have that they can toy around with, and I fully agree that it's going to be a full roller coaster. There's going to be players that transfer, and we've already seen to do, and Aaron hit the transfer portal, and Joey Hart. Um, we're going to see plenty more transfer. We're going to see um, players hit the draft that we may have thought would have come back. Probably DJ Reed. I know there was some speculation. There's a possibility of him coming back. He's definitely gone now. But it really kind of comes down to who they hire. It has to be a big name. It has to be somebody that can come in and win immediately. Because, like you said, Kentucky has a standard that we expect to reach every single year. And so, if we don't have a big hire, then it'll be a while till we get back to that standard, probably.
Yeah. I think the thing that how I kind of feel, just try to, it's very hard for me to sum up, but I'll do my best is, well, first, I think about 2 weeks ago at that weekend after the Oakland game, I really processed. That was when it was like everybody thought that was Cal Air was done that whole weekend. So I really went through the emotions and got to process it entirely that weekend. So now we're what 2 weeks after the news just feels a little weird to me, a little fake, but it doesn't hurt like it did. It felt the emotions were there 2 weeks ago. Now it's just like, oh, this reality kind of deal. So I've processed that Cal's gone, but my thing is, I've always said this. My first option is I want Cal here and winning. Like that would be my first scenario. My second option would be another coach coming in and they win. But my third option is what it's been recently. There's a comfort with Cal because he's gonna have you in the tournament every year. He's gonna have, I mean, I think his entire tenure here, he's at a top 5 recruit class the whole time. I think all but like 1 or 2 years it's been top 3. So he's gonna bring you a solid recruit class every year. He's gonna be in the tournament every year. You're gonna have the national spotlight every year. The floor with him is higher than just about almost any coach there is. I mean, there's a comfort there having that. But the standard at Kentucky is not losing in the first round out of the last 3 years. Going 1-5 in the SEC tournament, a tournament used to run the tables on for years, and 1-5 in the NCAA tournament. Like it's different here. That's not acceptable. And I think when he first got here, he said this was a 10-year job. He just finished year 15. And I think it's kind of more you're staying here kind of marinating in the good old days, kind of like that high school kid that keeps going back to high school. I used to play here. I used to play. And it's like you're eating out your legacy. And I just think it was a breakup. As much as it sucks, as a breakup that I was ready for, I think was definitely needed. And Wes, I think it's gonna give that fan base of y'all another spark, especially when you thought Musselman was gone and things were gonna take a turn for the worse. But thankfully to you all, I'm glad they're not.
Yeah, there's no doubt. The excitement here is great, and the money that they've raised for the NIL, it's been reported that they've got a $6 to $8 million pie for him to use to recruit. That's huge, and it's just because of the fan base that has stepped up, and John Tyson, I should mention his name. He and Coach Cal are friends, and so that was huge for Arkansas to get this deal done. Hunter Yurachek swung for the fences, and he got it done. He was getting a ton of criticism, the athletic director at Arkansas, and there were people doubting that he was going to be able to pull off a good hire, especially after Beard said no, and then you see these other names. I mean, some of the mentions on Hunter Yurachek's Twitter page were just it was crazy. They were ready to run him out of town, and he just pulled it off, and now he looks like a genius. He looks like he knew what he was doing the whole time. And while he was slow playing and doing some, I think some of the smoke screen, just some of the names that were out there. But this was a big move for Hunter Yurchek.
Wes, I can speak for myself. I just found out who the Tyson guy was last night. I know Cal. There's been pictures surface. He eats with him. I think every time Kentucky comes down there, etc. But for at least for myself and for most of Big Blue Nation that doesn't know a whole lot about him, how I know he's a booster, donates a lot of money. He's, I think, what, a billionaire is what someone said. I don't know. What's his? Can you tell us what that relationship's like with Arkansas? Has he been? Is he a prominent figure there? Is he coming up right now, or like what's the whole thing with the Tyson guy?
Well, he's been around, and he's a Razorback and Razorback fan. But I think with his relationship with Coach Cal and wanting this to get done, he stepped up what he has contributed to the fund and to the Razorback program. This is something that he really wanted to happen. And like I said, he made this happen, or he helped make it happen with his contributions. And the Tyson family's been great. It's a big part of Northwest Arkansas, and now it's a big part of the Arkansas Razorbacks.
Yeah, I can definitely say well, actually, I might want to backtrack on, but there's a section of this fan base, probably about 10%. It's getting smaller as time goes on. That might start boycotting Tyson chicken in the stores. Uh, that blame the media and that we've ran Cal out of town. My opinion, I don't think we've ran him out of town. I think he chose to leave of a situation where he wasn't wanted anymore. And I think it's just something that needed to happen. He needs to go to a school that he's got. We've hit this point 3 times already. A rejuvenated fan base that's gonna accept him. He's gonna be making just a little bit less than what he was at Kentucky, and the NIL. That's a big thing.
Yeah.
Kentucky's fumbled a little bit on the NIL, especially on the basketball side. I think Cal's kind of relied on, the brand of Kentucky basketball. You're going to come here and just to spotlight all that will come, but not really put a stern foundation for what NIL is. The football team is doing way better with it than the basketball team is. And part of it started off with our AD, Mitch Barnhart. He's kind of an old school guy. He took about a year or two to get on the NIL stuff. Like, he was behind on it. Now he's all in. But I think Cal just relied on the Kentucky brand. I'm Cal, NBA draft. Like, you're going to get all that stuff. It's going to come. We don't really have to force it to happen. And it hasn't really. There's a lot of things that have surfaced out about how the NIL has not been good here. And I think that in my opinion, I think the NIL was a big thing that brought him there. He's going to have a lot of money to work with, and it won't be the first time Cal's throwing a bag to get a player. So I think Arkansas is going to do well with that there.
Yeah, I would say, Trace, too, real quick, Wes, for you to say, you guys didn't run him out of town. I get it, but you guys were also, pretty tough to the point where, yeah, it's expected that you got to be tough to not let, first round upsets go, without any criticism and punishment there. But these reports saying that he's been getting, Cal's been irritated with the amount of hate he's been getting from the fan base. I mean, you guys wanted him to go last year. You wanted him to go this year. Even some people were saying after St. Peter's that he should be gone. I think, the fan base, if you guys are gonna be okay with this decision, that's great. But if anybody's upset that he is leaving, and if you're gonna boo him when he comes to Rupp next year, you guys were just as a part of this for running him out of town too, with like being like he was the most hated man in Lexington, really, after that loss. And so there's definitely a lot of respect that should be had for Cal and his legacy here. But you guys we're not the most loving to him either. So I don't blame him for leaving at some point, because the to say he was done with the pressure of the job, I think is not accurate, because he dealt with it for a while and he'd done good with it for a while. I think if he's at this point where he's hated, and like, why would he want to stay? Or he could go to a fan base that's going to welcome him with wide open arms. I mean, not just open arms like that. Fayetteville is bringing him in with wide open arms. They are happy as can be. So, he's going to go and be a god down there, just like he was here through that first half of his tenure. And, I think he's allowed to be a little upset with how the fans have treated him.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fan, if you get to deep dark parts of Twitter and Facebook comment sections, like, yeah, there's been some ugly stuff. Uh, but I'm under the impression of, like, you know, for any outsider looking in, Cal's got the biggest ego in the world, and like, you got to have that to be at Kentucky. I'm not knocking him for that, but like, when he doesn't have a relationship with any of us media, he sits there and is sometimes borderline rude with us. Doesn't have a relationship with the donors anymore. He mocks the fans. Like, as people have said for a while, when you're losing, that stuff's not acceptable anymore. And I think it is like things have gotten a little, the go to Texas sign, like a lot of that was uncalled for. Things have got, but I really do think that's a minority of this fan base. And I think the general of them that want him out aren't really saying nasty things. They're saying more of like, this breakup needs to happen because what you're doing here is not acceptable. So I think you do have a very valid point there. But I think that little section of the go to Texas, Cal, like those people, and remember at the SEC tournament, I sat there and watched that guy go, "This is not the gold standard. Leave!" Just screaming Bloody Mary at him. I think that's that the criticism gets real loud, and I think that stuff kind of takes a flame of its own. So who knows? But Wes, we do have about 3 minutes before this thing ends, or this Zoom. Want to kind of get your last few thoughts and kind of let you kind of recap on your new coach.
Well, I think I honestly believe for you guys, it's a good situation to get somebody new in that the fan base can rally around, and I think it's the same thing for Arkansas. I've already seen it here, that the fans are excited about the basketball program again. They know that it's not going to fade away. That this is an opportunity for them to keep going what Eric Musselman built, and he did a great job. As I said earlier, that was a long drought, and he got people excited again about basketball. Season tickets were way up. They've sold out just about, I think, every single game this season. So this Calipari can take it to another level, and with the success, and you're right, Arkansas fans, they want to get to the Final Four, but if they don't get to the Final Four next year, they're not going to be mad at him. They want to get to the tournament, and I think now, even this year was a disappointment because Musselman didn't get to the tournament, but they knew, fans know from time to time, the portal, it doesn't hit. Sometimes the team just doesn't work, and they were ready for next year with Musselman. Well, with him gone, now they're really ready for Calipari. And I'll say this too, Musselman did a great job, especially the year with Jordan Walsh, Anthony Black, Nick Smith Jr. That was 3 McDonald's All-Americans. That had never happened here before. That class was the best class ever at the University of Arkansas. Calipari does that just about every year. And so I can only imagine how excited the fans are going to be when some of the guys that he can bring in this year, but then to give him a full year of recruiting, what his classes are going to look like and the excitement that's going to create. At Kentucky, that's taken for granted. That happens every year. That doesn't happen at Arkansas. And that's about to happen here, and that's going to help the fans a lot too. But it all comes down, what do you do in March? There comes to a point, just like Kentucky fans, if the same thing keeps happening year after year, and you go 2-6 in the NCAA tournament since 2021, then that act will start to wear thin in 4 or 5 years. So, but like I said, this is a fresh start, and I think it's great for both programs.
Yeah. Wes, man, well, the ride's gonna be different for y'all here on out.
Yeah.
It's quite the show. There's a lot of good with it. I mean, these are just my own words. There's a lot of good with it, a lot of spotlight with it, and I hope y'all enjoy it. I hope Michael.
Uh, Nate Oates just tweeted that he is fully committed to staying at Alabama.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
think
just
this
froze.
and
I
Jay Wright.
expect that. I think you make a run at Hurley. I expect him to stay at UConn. I'll give you my prediction, and it's not something I'm going to tweet out and try to break, but my pick for Kentucky's next head coach is Billy Donovan.
Get turned the third time, turned down a third time bomb. Wes, we appreciate you hopping on here,
You
man.
bet.
This is
You
about
bet.
to end in just a second, so I don't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to get our goodbyes. But we will see you in Fayetteville, I'm sure, likely next year. We might see you in
Come,
Rupp.
come on, it'll be fun.
Well, enjoy the ride with Cal, man. Have a good night.
Thanks. See you guys.
See you, man.
The best month of the year is here, which is why you need to know that we are now partnered with BetMGM. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 all through the NCAA tournament. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use the bonus code FIELD, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM, regardless of whether or not that bet hits. Here's the best part. All you need to do is deposit and bet $10 of your hard-earned money. This is how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you get up to $1,500 in bonus bets, regardless of the outcome of your bet. Just make sure you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. Most importantly, we do have some fun stuff coming for the conference tournaments and especially for the NCAA tournament. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boost, and what I love the most, a nice parlay boost for anything you could possibly imagine betting on in the NCAA tournament, from odds and getting an at-large bid to Final Four futures to the highest seed to make to the Sweet 16. I'm calling it right now. BetMGM is the king of the prop bet for your March Madness needs. So go download the BetMGM app, use the code FIELD, and sign up today. And while I've got you, a quick request: the best way to support the Field of 68 and our content you get for free is to engage with us. Rate and review the pod, like and share the YouTube videos, tell your friends about us. It helps in a world where the algorithm is king. And now, back to the show.
Thank you for everybody who stayed on the other side of that ad break. We just had Wes down from Fox 16, I believe, in Little Rock. He's the one that was very, very early on the Cal to Arkansas news. Credit goes to him. Then some national people kind of confirmed it later on throughout the night, but he went with it. He was right. Props to him. I'm sure that was that. Like, I'm just saying, like, that's probably a big moment for him. And what Arkansas, like, I don't mean that. Please don't take that in a negative way. It sounds weird, but like that's a big moment. You go out there and Cal's coming to your school. Who I didn't believe that, and we could keep up with the Cal news and stuff, and he was right, and he stood by, and so props to Wes. He seemed like a real nice guy. Hopefully, we can talk to him down the road some. But yeah, I kind of wanted to reflect real quick. I know we've already done it a little bit, but kind of more in depth, so we don't, we had Wes on. Didn't want to take up too much of his time, but like the Cal to Arkansas, I'll kind of give my thoughts and give you all a second, just kind of get going, so I don't just throw it at you all. Um, you know, I'm 26 almost. Cal's been here 15 years. I was 11. I was going right into sixth grade when he got here. Before sixth grade, man, I played basketball and baseball, but I didn't watch the stuff. I didn't keep up with Kentucky. Like I didn't. I was a child. I didn't keep up with that stuff. I just didn't. And John Calipari gets here in sixth grade, and my dad's like, "You need to watch this and keep up with this." And I just fell in love, just like so many other little kids did, with the whole John Wall. From there on, it was so much fun, and it's bittersweet to kind of look back how elite, like not just good, elite that first 6 years. You can stretch it to maybe 9 years. It's just two different chapters in my book, and I've hit that note so many times, and I hate to see it end because my the 10-year-old inside me looks back of how like I wish it could be that way again, but it's not. All good things come to an end, and I 1000% am fine with the decision. I think that it should have ended. I don't have any second guesses. This is what needed to happen. But man, Tim, I was talking to you earlier. My thing is seeing Cal in another school's color. Sorry, I can't spell out my words. And then on top of it, it's red. And on top of that, it's in the SEC. It's gonna suck, man. Like I wanted him to retire go into the NBA, have some TV role. Like I knew he couldn't just go home and quit. Like I just wanted him to find a different role that wasn't coaching another school. But man, it ain't like it's across the country at UCLA where we don't see him a whole. Like we're gonna see him twice a year, one in Rupp and one down in Fayetteville, and probably down in Nashville too. Because he's gonna get that thing rolling, and that's kind of my thoughts. They've been all over the place, and that's just a little fourth of them. But Tim, you grew up here as well. Um, what's your thoughts on this, man?
I'm right there with you. I wish he could have rode off into the sunset, but
Yes.
that's just not reality. But I'm not I'm not mad at him for leaving at all. Like, I mean, I could see, some anger, if he like, didn't tell the university that he's leaving and kind of like left the players high and dry, just got out of there and everything because they don't deserve that. But he brought many memories to the program during my childhood, many idols that I love to watch and grow in the NBA, like Shea's one of my favorite players. Him going off to the NBA, and being a MVP candidate, something I never would have thought of. Um, and yeah, I mean, it was the NBA warehouse here for sure. A lot of prospects. It was awesome to see them in college and go off to be all stars that they are. I mean, his time here was awesome. I'm not mad at him for leaving. I was telling Michael this before you jumped in, but I feel like I might be in the minority of kind of cheering him on there at Arkansas some. Just for Cal. I'm not going to cheer on Arkansas. I'm going to cheer on Cal. I want him to have kind of a fresh start. Um, just kind of get that program up and running and get the caliphate going there.
Tim, I just quick rebuttal. Your opinion is completely fine, but quick rebuttal. Cal's going to talk his shit the whole way through that, right? He's going
Oh
to be
yeah.
just fingers up to Kentucky. I'm serious.
But
Like,
the thing is, Michael, you kind of mentioned it too. We almost deserve it. He was thick-skinned through it all. There was a little bit of slippage here and there, but there's a lot of people that he's gonna remember, and some of those people definitely deserve it. I mean, there's people like that in every single fan base, and the negative is always louder than the positive. The negative's always a minority. So I'm hoping he understands that just like completely bash the university and the fan base.
yeah,
Yeah, you guys wanted him gone, and you wanted to kick him out of town, and he was the most hated man in Lexington, and so this is kind of what you get, not to be rough, but from the outside looking in, it's like if he goes there and wins at Arkansas and gets to the Final Four before Kentucky gets back to the Final Four, you deserve it.
he
You
better not.
100% deserve it, and you guys got to eat your words because you guys wanted him gone,
He
and
better
like,
not.
and he could, right? I mean, if he like,
Oh yeah,
what if he gets like Reed Shepard to go, which isn't going to happen, but like, what if he gets DJ and Aaron to go, and like, and Billy Richmond and Boogie Flan turn out to be amazing, and they're like Rob level, they're both insane, and like, Carter Knox is like better than his brother was, and like then he gets a couple transfers because he showed that he could do it with Reeves, and like, so he's gonna get a good shooter or something. Like, watch out, he could be good. Now, I think Kentucky can also be really good next year, but it depends on who they hire, right? And so that's where I think we really got to start before we look at like the players. Nate Oates, as we're recording this, just announced that he's staying at Alabama. Um, you know, UConn's playing in the championship right now, and I'm under the belief that if Danny Hurley wins this game tonight, there's a 0% chance that he's leaving. But if he loses, it's a small chance that you could just pay him a ridiculous amount of money and get him to come. Jay Wright already shut it down. So your dream list of candidates is dwindling down, and like when Cal first leaves, it's like, okay, well, the UK fans are like, well, it's all right, we got options. Those options are going to keep dwindling pretty quick. So Mitch really has to nail this hire and really needs to do it quick to try to get this roster together when this portal window opens back up on April 11th, because guys are going to start flying. Guys are going to start falling off the portal, the best guys. So on April 11th, when that opens, then you got to be ready to rock. And, it'll be tough to see. But I think, the Billy Donovan hope, he's still with the Bulls for another week and a half. Are you going to wait that long? Just for him to say no, maybe, So a very interesting week ahead for Mitch Barnhart. But, the radio silence is interesting because, Matt Jones is trying to say tonight that there's a chance that Cal's trying to come back. You guys saw that, right?
Yeah. That
It
went on
was,
for like about 10 minutes. Yeah.
yeah, and I obviously,
It is kind of odd, Michael. Like, to be fair, Cal and UK have not came out and said a word. So like, I'm under the impression he's gone, but like it technically been done.
Arkansas hasn't either. And at first you think like, okay, well, they're just not doing it because it's like the day of the national championship. Like they'll make the announcement tomorrow at 9 a.m. That was my initial thought earlier in the day was like, yeah, they're probably not going to announce today anyways, because they're not going to compete with the title game. Just do it tomorrow. But then he's saying there's a lot of chatter out there that maybe Calipari is trying to find a way to stay. It sounds insane, I know, but that is making its way around the UK world. Like trying to find a way to stay. What does that even mean? Like, does that mean that like he signed, but now he wants to get out of it to come back? Or does that mean that he is just like he never signed anything, and so whatever he said to Arkansas, he's just going back on it? Like, I wonder what that even means. But I think it'd be kind of funny to just if he was just like, oh, never mind, I'm coming back. It's like, what just happened? It was like Stoops, like thinking about A&M and then being like, nah. But he shut that down. He was like, I never accepted it. Like, I'm coming back, But that would be hilarious. Either way, I think it's probably BS. Cal's gone, but it's a funny little thing. It's like, if we're like at noon tomorrow and there's still nothing, it's kind of like, or like 2 p.m. or like 5 p.m., 8 p.m. If Tuesday goes by and there's still no announcement, it's like as more and more time goes on, it's like, huh? What's happening here? It'll be interesting.
And like your point of like, what do you mean stay? Like, what would you coming back to? Like, this is like a couple that's fell out of love with each other. Like, there's a little bit of they've had some issues, the little toxic problems, but like the majority, I think, is just a couple that's fell out of love with each other. Cal, I mean, from people I've talked to people who know, it's not my scoop, but I've talked to them, it's their scoop, and I can see it with my own eyes. He isn't in love with this place anymore. I mean, he might had a straight face, but like he just here is doing a job, and you could tell. I mean, he doesn't talk to anyone. He mocks the fans. Like, Cal doesn't like it here, like at least in my opinion, he doesn't like it here like he used to. Like, and fans don't like him. A whole lot of them don't like him anymore. And like, it's this relationship with us has gone stale, and it's not there's not that fire and spark that there once was. And that I think there's a lot of fire with that. Like, there's a lot to that of like, Arkansas is like, come here, give us a top 5 recruiting class and a tournament appearance every single year guaranteed. And Wes made a good point. We take we get McDonald's All-Americans all year, or every single year. Like, we take that stuff for granted. Yes, we do. At Kentucky and Duke and Carolina and Kansas, you can do that. But yeah, I mean, that's a valid point. We do take that stuff for granted. And man, back to where you said earlier, Tim, I don't want him to do good down there, but I think he is going to do good down there. I think if this is going to make absolutely no sense, but it's how I feel. Feelings sometimes don't go with logic. He stayed here for another year, bounce in the first or second round. He goes to Arkansas. I bet you hits the Sweet 16. Like, just the mindset of like a new challenge. I got to prove everybody else wrong that pushed me out of that town kind of thing. Like, I think he will. I don't think he's going to take off to the Final Four, but like, I think Cal's going to be past this. I think probably Sweet 16. That's where I'll go with today. It's like, man, damn it. Why can't you just do that here like you used to? Sweet 16 used to be chapters ahead of that. Like, no effort in that, and just different, man. I don't know.
You think he's going to go into the SEC tournament saying it doesn't matter anymore?
He's gonna be walking on ice, I think. Either he's gonna be walking on ice and like I need to stay neutral and not piss off Kentucky fans, or he's gonna come out and be all aggressive like they, the little sub hints, the passive aggressive, like they accept me here and this and this and like he probably gives us all his one liners and passive aggressive crap as he's down there, especially when Kentucky's around.
I think he'll say that even in his introductory press conference too. I think he'll reference that like he feels really welcomed here, and you could tell he was stressed out. Like next year, he's gonna go into that coaching like with no pressure, which could be
Yeah.
really refreshing for him. Like to just, I mean, like I don't know if he felt pressure with his in-game coaching or like this year, but I mean, he probably should have just said screw it and just ran a Rob Dillingham pick and roll like all game. Like I've said this to you guys multiple times. Like him or Reed should have just been running that pick and roll all game. Like fuck all the other plans on offense. Like if you're at least if you're not playing a zone, if you're against a man defense, run that damn pick and roll because Rob is going to be running it all day in the pros and it works. So just do it. Like and you have 3 7-footers, 2 of them can kind of shoot. So you have a pick and pop threat too. And then Ugo could at least he can't shoot, but he's got like barely a mid range, and but like Aaron was a solid, like rim runner. He could throw and get some lobs. Like that should have been their whole offense. Whatever. I'll ramble about that forever. Like, but at the end of the day, they lost to Oakland. It is what it is. But um, I think Cal will be solid. I just wonder what the roster will look like. Aaron Bradshaw hits the portal. So does Joey Hart. Fine.
Dude,
Huh?
the arrow about a
Yeah.
week ago.
Yeah. Adu last week, and Justin Edwards goes to the draft, which is great. Good for him, man. Like I fully support that. Now with Cal leaving, you're hoping getting Reed back, as you said, producer Tim. Like that's gone. I really thought there was a shot, even if he was going to be a top 10 pick. Like there was a shot he could have came back. I don't see him coming back for a different coach, unless he really likes the coach. And I don't see him playing for another school. He would only play for Kentucky. So he'll probably just go to the league. Rob's going to the league. DJ will be interesting. But Carter Knox, he decommits today. That's tough. And he's probably going to follow Cal because his brother, maybe. And then
A little mix. This recruiting class is about to get a little dicey and kind of get a little sloppy here.
yeah, I mean, you hope Travis Perry stays and comes. He's the local kid. Just state of Kentucky kid. His dreams to play here. He just played on that rough floor. So
I for
I don't know.
I saw a meme today. The Will Smith where he's sitting in that room, the living room by himself. Everybody's left him. That's gonna be Travis Perry. That's out of the recruiting class. I think he stays here because he's got the Kentucky thing at his personal brand. But like, if he wasn't already committed, maybe he looks like Ole Miss was a big front runner there. But I think Travis Perry is about you, the only one you can really have a good feel for right now.
I don't know if you can even have a good feeling about it. I mean, there could be absolutely zero returning players or initial commits like on next year's team, like completely zero, which is really insane. Besides, like Walker Horn, like I mean, that could actually be it. I mean, like, does Jordan Burke stay now? Because like
Oh,
maybe he gets like Cal wasn't going to give him a role, but if this roster like isn't that good, then it's like Burks like is kind of like, well, maybe I can get a good amount of minutes, like I mean, the Z like I don't know what Z is thinking right now. He probably doesn't know what the heck's going on. He's just like, I just lost my coach and I don't know how this works. But like guys that you thought would just leave, like maybe Burke stays if the new coach isn't that great in the portal and doesn't assemble a great roster. Then maybe Burks is like, okay, I actually might have an opportunity to play minutes. Who knows, right? I think like is there really anybody on this current team that you'd put money on staying? No, but like I really thought Adu had a good shot at staying, but that's not happening. He's already on the way to Pittsburgh. And when even before they had that 2 p.m. meeting, that didn't happen. Like he was already on the way to Pittsburgh, I guess. So Um, I, if you had to say like if you had to say one player that was on this year's team, like they're going to be back, who is it?
You make a very valid point about Jordan Burks. That I mean, that's something to think about because I thought he was gone if Cal was coming back because he averaged 30 points in the overtime elite league. And so like he likes to be that guy. I mean, he was a very big prospect coming out of the OTE. So that's a really good point, Michael, there. Like I was sitting there thinking if they don't get any of the recruits and anything like that. It's going to be a very transfer portal heavy team, probably. Um, and Jordan Burks may be the guy, may be the youngest guy on the team that returns next year. That's a good point.
I think especially if this recruiting class gets a big exodus on it, I think it's more likely. Uh, I think yeah, that's a good point. When you had first, I didn't get to hear your full question. I jumped to the gun early and said no about Jordan Burks. But when you said if all these guys leave and basically he has a bigger role than what he would have had with Cal, I actually agree with that actually, because you're Kentucky's still going to get the spotlight. And especially all the people watching, how's Kentucky going to do without Cal, kind of thing. Like, and even years from now, like Kentucky's still going to get that spotlight. And if Jordan Burks likes that, I mean, you can get that spotlight here even without Cal. So maybe, but like this roster assembly is going to be wild. Like, who is a lock to stay on this team? Like, no one.
Well, and the tough thing is like when the new coach comes in, he's going to have a lot of work. But also, like all these guys are going to be in the draft, but also in the portal, but also
Yep.
keeping their eligibility. It's like, so how many guys do they just go and get right away in the portal, or like does the new coach like kind of maybe hope that Bradshaw is like, oh, well, maybe I'll just come back, because he's not going to the draft. Does he pick a new school? Him and DJ maybe are a combo deal again, but they're not really like locked down on Kentucky. DJ was just like committed to Cal, and Aaron just kind of followed him as a package deal. So like, do either of them is a do like, yeah, like that's a very difficult situation for a new coach to come into, and that's why if I'm Nate Oates, like I don't blame him. I'm like I just made the Final Four, and I roll in the portal, and I have a system here, and they love me. Like why would I go to a train wreck? Which is what this Kentucky situation is right now. Like in terms of this roster, which is college basketball in total, right? Like it's all a train wreck and it's all just free agency, right? Like that, but at least like it's a difficult situation because you have like what six guys that are just gonna be like hovering in the draft. Like Rob's gonna go for sure, and it sounded like Justin's going for sure. He didn't really in his letter to BBN. He didn't really indicate that he'd be back. Like Reed's gonna declare but keep his eligibility, and so will DJ and Aaron already did, and Adu did, and then like Ugo, and so now it's just kind of like what do I do? How many
Guys,
guys do I get in the portal? It's a tough situation.
and they got until the end of May. Like, we got a whole month.
Right.
Actually, we got a whole about 6 weeks to like really have to have an answer. So
Right. And you can't wait forever for these guys. So like you just like the new coach is gonna come in maybe this week and like they're gonna have to get moving, right? Like get this roster figured out. So and try to salvage the recruits like incoming freshmen, but I don't see how I don't see how they come in either. But it's tougher for the guys that sign. They got to get their release, right? Which the university has to grant. Are they going to grant it? Yes, they should. But fascinating couple weeks ahead, and obviously it starts with hiring a coach, which probably should happen this week. But is there like are there any names that you guys feel like aren't being talked about a lot that you like, or because this list of the hot names is going to dwindle down?
I think I'd kind of like to see a Izzone blue shirt. Tom Izzo here under Rupp Arena. May not be too bad.
That's
Um,
funny.
Man, I don't know. I mean, I was kind of high on Nate Oates, but I don't think that's gonna happen. It's kind of all the typical names. I'm so bad with names, with the Illinois coach Underwood. I know. There's talks to him, and I mean, I don't know if I'd really want him. He's a super high-powered offense coach. At least this team was. So I feel like it'd be kind of the same boat.
Another one that people haven't talked about, but like Shaka Smart, I mean, he just did pretty well with Marquette. He's got big. He didn't do that well
I
with
see
his
your
big
vision.
job,
I
but
see your vision there. I see your vision there.
not great. But like, it's going to be a backup because if Scott Drew says no, and if Danny Hurley wins tonight or says no anyways, you're starting to get to like the B tier, and you can't hire Patino. You just can't. He's too old. Like you can't do it. It's
And
not happening.
and here's another thing why you can't hire Patino. Yes, I think he's a great coach. He knows what he's talking about. Outside of him already being old as dust, that man left Kentucky to go to Louisville. That's the biggest sin you can do in this state. Like, you're going to welcome him back to Lexington? Come on. I keep seeing these people put that online. I don't have a whole lot of hard feelings for him now that he's not at Louisville, but like that man left Kentucky to go to Louisville right down the road. Like, that's just the worst thing you can do. He is not, he doesn't have my welcome back at the helm here. Not that he
Uh,
needs.
I will say DeMarcus Cousins. I don't know what the podcast was, but I saw Matt Jones tweet that DeMarcus Cousins says that he thinks Rajon Rondo should be the next head coach at Kentucky.
I just
Yeah,
pulled that up. I was like,
yeah.
what in the world?
Tim, I thought you was going with Boogie as being the next head coach. I didn't know where you was going with that one for a second.
Boogie not so much, but whenever Rondo
I,
is kind of getting towards the end of the career, he's an offensive playmaking mastermind. I always kind of thought he would make a good coach, but start off at Kentucky, probably
yeah.
not so much.
Could you imagine Boogie getting in an argument with one of the officials?
Oh God,
He gets
yeah.
beat up, ejected so many times.
Cal just screams in their face. Boogie would lose the what's the word? He would lose his cool and get bucked up with them, and you never know about that. Wow.
Yeah. But another name, my dad is big on him, is Will Hardy, Jazz head coach right now, young coach, doing pretty good as his first year as a head coach with the Jazz. Bunch of NBA experience. He's been an assistant for two different teams before he went on to become the head coach at the Jazz. But I think a young coach like that, something that you could possibly keep around long term, would be pretty nice.
Yeah, I like that one. I gotta go. But like Quinn Snyder, he didn't have a great season with the Hawks. Trey Young got hurt, and they expected a lot out of him. Maybe they split, and like that would be a good one. Another Jazz guy was funny, but um, yeah, I don't know. There are a couple NBA guys, but I think Mitch is gonna, still the job has so much credibility. So, I respect it. I respect Nate Oates for turning it down, but if they did offer, but we don't know. Mitch might not have even called him, so he might have just shut it down on his own. But very interesting week. I'm curious to see if like they announce 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. Like if they go all of tomorrow without announcing, if this starts to get like multiple days without hearing anything, then you really got to start like being like, okay, what's going on here? But I would expect it to be announced in the morning. Press conference, maybe even as early as Wednesday, if not Thursday, down in Fayetteville. Um, we'll see though.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, guys. I got to go on and get on the air.
National
Oh, you're
championship.
good.
We're about to go watch the game. Who y'all got winning? UConn.
UConn.
Yeah, I see UConn, but Edie is such a beast, man. He could go out there and just do another 30 and 15.
Oh,
I
all
don't
right.
know what's the score right now. It's 18-16 UConn halfway through the first half.
Well, guys, we'll see y'all on the flip side of this thing, and maybe the next time we'll have some more answers when we get back on here. So,
Maybe a
Yeah,
new head coach.
next pod we'll do a new head coach pod for sure.
All right,
see y'all
y'all.
next time.